Rule 11. When to file responsive pleadings. Section 1. Answer to the complaint. The defendant shall file his or her answer to the complaint within 30 calendar days after service of summons, unless a different period is fixed by the court. 1a. Section 2. Answer of a defendant foreign private juridical entity. Where the defendant is a foreign private juridical entity and service of summons is made on the government official designated by law to receive the same, the answer shall be filed within 60 calendar days after receipt of summons by such entity. 2a. Section 3. Answer to amended complaint. When the plaintiff files an amended complaint as a matter of right, the defendant shall answer the same within 30 calendar days after being served with a copy thereof. Where its filing is not a matter of right, the defendant shall answer the amended complaint within 15 calendar days from notice of the order admitting the same. An answer earlier filed may serve as the answer to the amended complaint if no new answer is filed. This rule shall apply to the answer to an amended counterclaim, amended cross-claim, amended third, fourth, etc. Party complaint, an amended complaint in intervention. 3a. Section 4. Answer to counterclaim or cross-claim. A counterclaim or cross-claim must be answered within 20 calendar days from service. 4a. Section 5. Answer to third, fourth, etc. Party complaint. The time to answer a third, fourth, etc. party complaint shall be governed by the same rule as the answer to the complaint. 5. Section 6. Reply. A reply, if allowed under Section 10, Rule 6 hereof, may be filed within 15 calendar days from service of the pleading responded to. 6a. Section 7. Answer to supplemental complaint. A supplemental complaint may be answered within 20 calendar days from notice of the order admitting the same, unless a different period is fixed by the court. The answer to the complaint shall serve as the answer to the supplemental complaint if no new or supplemental answer is filed. 7a. Section 8. Existing counterclaim or cross-claim. A compulsory counterclaim or a cross-claim that a defending party has at the time he or she files his or her answer shall be contained therein. 8a. Section 9. Counterclaim or cross-claim arising after answer. A counterclaim or a cross-claim which either matured or was acquired by a party after serving his or her pleading may, with the permission of the court, be presented as a counterclaim or a cross-claim by supplemental pleading before judgment. 9a. Section 10. Omitted counterclaim or cross-claim. When a pleader fails to set up a counterclaim or a cross-claim through oversight, inadvertence, or excusable neglect, or when justice requires, he or she may, by leave of court, set up the counterclaim or cross-claim by amendment before judgment. 10a. Section 11. Extension of time to file an answer. A defendant may, for meritorious reasons, be granted an additional period of not more than 30 calendar days to file an answer. A defendant is only allowed to file one motion for extension of time to file an answer. A motion for extension to file any pleading, other than an answer, is prohibited and considered a mere scrap of paper. The court, however, may allow any other pleading to be filed after the time fixed by these rules. 11a. Rule 12. Bill of Particulars. Section 1. When applied for, purpose. Before responding to a pleading, a party may move for a definite statement or for a bill of particulars of any matter, which is not averred with sufficient definiteness or particularity, to enable him or her properly to prepare his or her responsive pleading. If the pleading is a reply, the motion must be filed within 10 calendar days from service thereof. Such motion shall point out the defects complained of, the paragraphs wherein they are contained, and the details desired. 1a. Section 2. Action by the court. Upon the filing of the motion, the clerk of court must immediately bring it to the attention of the court, which may either deny or grant it outright, or allow the parties the opportunity to be heard. 2. Section 3. Compliance with order. If the motion is granted, either in whole or in part, the compliance therewith must be effected within 10 calendar days from notice of the order, unless a different period is fixed by the court. The bill of particulars or a more definite statement ordered by the court may be filed either in a separate or in an amended pleading, serving a copy thereof on the adverse party. 3a. Section 4. Effect of non-compliance. If the order is not obeyed, or in case of insufficient compliance therewith, the court may order the striking out of the pleading or the portions thereof to which the order was directed, or make such other order as it deems just. 4. Section 5. Stay of period to file responsive pleading. After service of the bill of particulars or of a more definite pleading, or after notice of denial of his or her motion, the moving party may file his or her responsive pleading within the period to which he or she was entitled at the time of filing his or her motion, which shall not be less than 5 calendar days in any event. 5a. Section 6. Bill a part of pleading. A bill of particulars becomes part of the pleading for which it is intended. 6. Rule 13. Filing and service of pleadings, judgments and other papers. Section 1. Coverage. This rule shall govern the filing of all pleadings, motions, and other court submissions, as well as the service thereof, except those for which a different mode of service is prescribed. 1a. Section 2. Filing and service, defined. Filing is the act of submitting the pleading or other paper to the court. Service is the act of providing a party with a copy of the pleading or any other court submission. If a party has appeared by counsel, service upon such party shall be made upon his or her counsel, unless service upon the party and the party's counsel is ordered by the court. Where one counsel appears for several parties, such counsel shall only be entitled to one copy of any paper served upon him by the opposite side. Where several counsels appear for one party, such party shall be entitled to only one copy of any pleading or paper to be served upon the lead counsel if one is designated, or upon any one of them if there is no designation of a lead counsel. 2a. Section 3. Manner of filing. The filing of pleadings and other court submissions shall be made by a. Submitting personally the original thereof, plainly indicated as such, to the court. b. Sending them by registered mail. c. Sending them by accredited courier, or d. Transmitting them by electronic mail or other electronic means as may be authorized by the CART in places where the court is electronically equipped. In the first case, the clerk of court shall endorse on the pleading the date and hour of filing. In the second and third cases, the date of the mailing of motions, pleadings, and other court submissions, and payments or deposits, as shown by the post office stamp on the envelope or the registry receipt, shall be considered as the date of their filing, payment, or deposit in court. The envelope shall be attached to the record of the case. In the fourth case, the date of electronic transmission shall be considered as the date of filing. 3a. Section 4. Papers required to be filed and served. Every judgment, resolution, order, pleading subsequent to the complaint, written motion, notice, appearance, demand, offer of judgment or similar papers shall be filed with the court, and served upon the parties affected. 4. Section 5. Modes of service. Pleadings, motions, notices, orders, judgments, and other court submissions shall be served personally or by registered mail, accredited courier, electronic mail, facsimile transmission, other electronic means as may be authorized by the CART, or as provided for in international conventions to which the Philippines is a party. 5a. Section 6. Personal service. Court submissions may be served by personal delivery of a copy to the party or to the party's counsel, or to their authorized representative named in the appropriate pleading or motion, or by leaving it in his or her office with his or her clerk, or with a person having charge thereof. If no person is found in his or her office, or his or her office is not known, or he or she has no office, then by leaving the copy, between the hours of 8 in the morning and 6 in the evening, at the party's or counsel's residence, if known, with a person of sufficient age and discretion residing therein. 6a. Section 7. Service by mail. Service by registered mail shall be made by depositing the copy in the post office, in a sealed envelope, plainly addressed to the party or to the party's counsel at his or her office, if known, otherwise at his or her residence, if known, with postage fully prepaid, and with instructions to the postmaster to return the mail to the sender after 10 calendar days if undelivered. If no registry service is available in the locality of either the sender or the addressee, service may be done by ordinary mail. 7a. Section 8. Substituted service. If service of pleadings, motions, notices, resolutions, orders and other papers cannot be made under the two preceding sections, the office and place of residence of the party or his or her counsel being unknown, service may be made by delivering the copy to the clerk of court, with proof of failure of both personal service and service by mail. The service is complete at the time of such delivery. 8a. Section 9. Service by electronic means and facsimile. Service by electronic means and facsimile shall be made if the party concerned consents to such modes of service. Service by electronic means shall be made by sending an email to the party's or counsel's electronic mail address, or through other electronic means of transmission as the parties may agree on, or upon direction of the court. Service by facsimile shall be made by sending a facsimile copy to the parties or counsel's given facsimile number. N. Section 10. Presumptive service. There shall be presumptive notice to a party of a court setting if such notice appears on the records to have been mailed at least 20 calendar days prior to the scheduled date of hearing, and if the addressee is from within the same judicial region of the court where the case is pending, or at least 30 calendar days if the addressee is from outside the judicial region. N. Section 11. Change of electronic mail address or facsimile number. A party who changes his or her electronic mail address or facsimile number while the action is pending must promptly file, within 5 calendar days from such change, a notice of change of email address or facsimile number with the court and serve the notice on all other parties. Service through the electronic mail address or facsimile number of a party shall be presumed valid unless such party notifies the court of any change, as aforementioned. N. Section 12. Electronic mail and facsimile subject and title of pleadings and other documents. The subject of the electronic mail and facsimile must follow the prescribed format, case number, case title, and the pleading, order or document title. The title of each electronically filed or served pleading or other document, and each submission served by facsimile shall contain sufficient information to enable the court to ascertain from the title, a. the party or parties filing or serving the paper, b. nature of the paper, c. the party or parties against whom relief, if any, is sought, and d. the nature of the relief sought. N. Section 13. Service of judgments, final riders or RE solutions. Judgments, final orders, or resolutions shall be served either personally or by registered mail. Upon ex parte motion of any party in the case, a copy of the judgment, final order, or resolution may be delivered by accredited courier at the expense of such party. When a party summoned by publication has failed to appear in the action, judgments, final orders, or resolutions against him or her shall be served upon him or her also by means of publication at the expense of the prevailing party. 9a. Section 14. Conventional service or filing of orders, pleadings and other documents. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the following orders, pleadings, and other documents must be served or filed personally or by registered mail when allowed, and shall not be served or filed electronically, unless express permission is granted by the C-Art. A. Initiatory pleadings and initial responsive pleadings, such as an answer. B. Subpoena, protection orders, and writs. C. Appendices and exhibits to motions, or other documents that are not readily amenable to electronic scanning may, at the option of the party filing such, be filed and served conventionally, and D. Sealed and confidential documents or records. N. Section 15. Completeness of service. Personal service is complete upon actual delivery. Service by ordinary mail is complete upon the expiration of 10 calendar days after mailing, unless the court otherwise provides. Service by registered mail is complete upon actual receipt by the addressee, or after 5 calendar days from the date he or she received the first notice of the postmaster, whichever date is earlier. Service by accredited courier is complete upon actual receipt by the addressee, or after at least two attempts to deliver by the courier service, or upon the expiration of 5 calendar days after the first attempt to deliver, whichever is earlier. Electronic service is complete at the time of the electronic transmission of the document, or when available, at the time that the electronic notification of service of the document is sent. Electronic service is not effective or complete if the party serving the document learns that it did not reach the addressee or person to be served. Service by facsimile transmission is complete upon receipt by the other party, as indicated in the facsimile transmission printout. 10a. Section 16. Proof of filing. The filing of a pleading or any other court submission shall be proved by its existence in the record of the case. A. If the pleading or any other court submission is not in the record, but is claimed to have been filed personally, the filing shall be proven by the written or stamped acknowledgement of its filing by the clerk of court on a copy of the pleading or court submission. B. If the pleading or any other court submission was filed by registered mail, the filing shall be proven by the registry receipt and by the affidavit of the person who mailed it, containing a full statement of the date and place of deposit of the mail in the post office in a sealed envelope addressed to the court, with postage fully prepaid, and with instructions to the postmaster to return the mail to the sender after 10 calendar days if not delivered. C. If the pleading or any other court submission was filed through an accredited courier service, the filing shall be proven by an affidavit of service of the person who brought the pleading or other document to the service provider, together with the courier's official receipt and document tracking number. D. If the pleading or any other court submission was filed by electronic mail, the same shall be proven by an affidavit of electronic filing of the filing party accompanied by a paper copy of the pleading or other document transmitted or a written or stamped acknowledgement of its filing by the clerk of court. If the paper copy sent by electronic mail was filed by registered mail, paragraph B of this section applies. E. If the pleading or any other court submission was filed through other authorized electronic means, the same shall be proven by an affidavit of electronic filing of the filing party accompanied by a copy of the electronic acknowledgement of its filing by the court. 12a. Section 17. Proof of service. Proof of personal service shall consist of a written admission of the party served, or the official return of the server, or the affidavit of the party serving, containing a statement of the date, place, and manner of service. If the service is made by a. ordinary mail, proof shall consist of an affidavit of the person mailing stating the facts showing compliance with Section 7 of this rule. B. registered mail. Proof shall be made by the affidavit mentioned above and the registry receipt issued by the mailing office. The registry return card shall be filed immediately upon its receipt by the sender, or in lieu thereof, the unclaimed letter together with the certified or sworn copy of the notice given by the postmaster to the addressee. C. Accredited courier service. Proof shall be made by an affidavit of service executed by the person who brought the pleading or paper to the service provider, together with the courier's official receipt or document tracking number. D. Electronic mail, facsimile, or other authorized electronic means of transmission. Proof shall be made by an affidavit of service executed by the person who sent the email, facsimile, or other electronic transmission, together with a printed proof of transmittal. 13a. Section 18. Court-issued orders and other documents. The court may electronically serve orders and other documents to all the parties in the case which shall have the same effect and validity as provided herein. A paper copy of the order or other document electronically served shall be retained and attached to the record of the case. N. Section 19. Notice of lis pendens. In an action affecting the title or the right of possession of real property, the plaintiff and the defendant, when affirmative relief is claimed in his or her answer, may record in the office of the Registry of Deeds of the province in which the property is situated a notice of the pendency of the action. Said notice shall contain the names of the parties and the object of the action or defense, and a description of the property in that province affected thereby. Only from the time of filing such notice for record shall a purchaser, or encumbrancer of the property affected thereby, be deemed to have constructive notice of the pendency of the action, and only of its pendency against the parties designated by their real names. The notice of lis pendens herein above mentioned may be cancelled only upon order of the court, after proper showing that the notice is for the purpose of molesting the adverse party, or that it is not necessary to protect the rights of the party who caused it to be recorded. 14a. Rule 14 Summons. Section 1. Clerk to issue summons. Unless the complaint is on its face dismissible under Section 1, Rule 9, the court shall, within 5 calendar days from receipt of the initiatory pleading and proof of payment of the requisite legal fees, direct the clerk of court to issue the corresponding summons to the defendants. 1a. Section 2. Contents. The summons shall be directed to the defendant, signed by the clerk of court under seal, and contain a. The name of the court and the names of the parties to the action. b. When authorized by the court upon ex parte motion, an authorization for the plaintiff to serve summons to the defendant. c. A direction that the defendant answer within the time fixed by these rules, and d. A notice that unless the defendant so answers, plaintiff will take judgment by default and may be granted the relief applied for. A copy of the complaint and order for appointment of guardian ad litem, if any, shall be attached to the original and each copy of the summons. 2a. Section 3. By whom served. The summons may be served by the sheriff, his or her deputy, or other proper court officer, and in case of failure of service of summons by them, the court may authorize the plaintiff F. to serve the summons, together with the sheriff. In cases where summons is to be served outside the judicial region of the court where the case is pending, the plaintiff F shall be authorized to cause the service of summons. If the plaintiff F is a juridical entity, it shall notify the court in writing and name its authorized representative therein, attaching a board resolution or secretary's certificate thereto, as the case may be, stating that such representative is duly authorized to serve the summons on behalf of the plaintiff. If the plaintiff F misrepresents that the defendant was served summons, and it is later proved that no summons was served, the case shall be dismissed with prejudice, the proceedings shall be nullified, and the plaintiff F shall be meted appropriate sanctions. If summons is returned without being served on any or all the defendants, the court shall order the plaintiff F to cause the service of summons by other means available under the rules. Failure to comply with the order shall cause the dismissal of the initiatory pleading without prejudice. 3a. Section 4. Validity of summons and issuance of alias summons. Summons shall remain valid until duly served, unless it is recalled by the court. In case of loss or destruction of summons, the court may, upon motion, issue an alias summons. There is failure of service after unsuccessful attempts to personally serve the summons on the defendant in his or her address indicated in the complaint. Substituted service should be in the manner provided under Section 6 of this rule. 5a. Section 5. Service in person on defendant. Whenever practicable, the summons shall be served by handing a copy thereof to the defendant in person and informing the defendant that he or she is being served, or, if he or she refuses to receive and sign for it, by leaving the summons within the view and in the presence of the defendant. 6a. Section 6. Substituted service. If, for justifiable causes, the defendant cannot be served personally after at least 3 attempts on 2 different dates, service may be effected. A. By leaving copies of the summons at the defendant's residence to a person at least 18 years of age and of sufficient discretion residing therein. B. By leaving copies of the summons at the defendant's office or regular place of business with some competent person in charge thereof. A competent person includes, but is not limited to, one who customarily receives correspondences for the defendant. C. By leaving copies of the summons, if refused entry upon making his or her authority and purpose known, with any of the officers of the homeowners association or condominium, corporation, or its chief security officer in charge of the community or the building where the defendant may be found, and d. By sending an electronic mail to the defendant's electronic mail address, if allowed by the court. 7a. Section 7. Service upon entity without juridical personality. When persons associated in an entity without juridical personality are sued under the name by which they are generally or commonly known, service may be effected upon all the defendants by serving upon any one of them, or upon the person in charge of the office or place of business maintained in such name. But such service shall not bind individually any person whose connection with the entity has, upon due notice, been severed before the action was filed. 8a. Section 8. Service upon prisoners. When the defendant is a prisoner confined in a jail or institution, service shall be effected upon him or her by the officer having the management of such jail or institution who is deemed as a special sheriff for said purpose. The jail warden shall file a return within 5 calendar days from service of summons to the defendant. 9a. Section 9. Service consistent with international conventions. Service may be made through methods which are consistent with established international conventions to which the Philippines is a party. N. Section 10. Service upon minors and incompetents. When the defendant is a minor, insane, or otherwise an incompetent person, service of summons shall be made upon him or her personally and on his or her legal guardian if he or she has one, or if none, upon his or her guardian ad litem whose appointment shall be applied for by the plaintiff. In the case of a minor, service shall be made on his or her parent or guardian. 10a. Section 11. Service upon spouses. When spouses are sued jointly, service of summons should be made to each spouse individually. N. Section 12. Service upon domestic private juridical entity. When the defendant is a corporation, partnership, or association organized under the laws of the Philippines with a juridical personality, service may be made on the president, managing partner, general manager, corporate secretary, treasurer, or in-house counsel of the corporation wherever they may be found, or in their absence or unavailability, on their secretaries. If such service cannot be made upon any of the foregoing persons, it shall be made upon the person who customarily receives the correspondence for the defendant at its principal office. In case the domestic juridical entity is under receivership or liquidation, service of summons shall be made on the receiver or liquidator, as the case may be. Should there be a refusal on the part of the persons above mentioned to receive summons despite at least 3 attempts on 2 different dates, service may be made electronically, if allowed by the court, as provided under Section 6 of this rule. 11a. Section 13. Duty of counsel of record. Where the summons is improperly served and a lawyer makes a special appearance on behalf of the defendant to, among others, question the validity of service of summons, the counsel shall be deputized by the court to serve summons on his or her client. N. Section 14. Service upon foreign private juridical entities. When the defendant is a foreign private juridical entity which has transacted or is doing business in the Philippines, as defined by law, service may be made on its resident agent designated in accordance with law for that purpose, or, if there be no such agent, on the government official designated by law to that effect, or on any of its officers, agents, directors, or trustees within the Philippines. If the foreign private juridical entity is not registered in the Philippines, or has no resident agent but has transacted or is doing business in it, as defined by law, such service may, with leave of court, be effected outside of the Philippines through any of the following means. A. By personal service coursed through the appropriate court in the foreign country with the assistance of the Department of Foreign Affairs. B. By publication once in a newspaper of general circulation in the country where the defendant may be found and by serving a copy of the summons and the court order by registered mail at the last known address of the defendant. C. By facsimile. D. By electronic means with the prescribed proof of service, or E. By such other means as the court, in its discretion, may direct. 12a. Section 15. Service upon public corporations. When the defendant is the Republic of the Philippines, service may be effected on the Solicitor General, in case of a province, city, or municipality, or like public corporations, service may be effected on its executive head, or on such other officer or officers as the law or the court may direct. 13a. Section 16. Service upon defendant whose identity or whereabouts are unknown. In any action where the defendant is designated as an unknown owner, or the like, or whenever his or her whereabouts are unknown and cannot be ascertained by diligent inquiry, within 90 calendar days from the commencement of the action, service may, by leave of court, be effected upon him or her by publication in a newspaper of general circulation and in such places and for such time as the court may order. Any order granting such leave shall specify a reasonable time, which shall not be less than 60 calendar days after notice, within which the defendant must answer. 14a. Section 17. Extraterritorial service. When the defendant does not reside and is not found in the Philippines, and the action affects the personal status of the plaintiff or relates to, or the subject of which is, property within the Philippines, in which the defendant has or claims a lien or interest, actual or contingent, or in which the relief demanded consists, wholly or in part, in excluding the defendant from any interest therein, or the property of the defendant has been attached within the Philippines, service may, by leave of court, be effected out of the Philippines by personal service as under Section 5, or as provided for in international conventions to which the Philippines is a party, or by publication in a Newspaper of general circulation in such places and for such time as the court may order, in which case a copy of the summons and order of the court shall be sent by registered mail to the last known address of the defendant, or in any other manner the court may deem sufficient. Any order granting such leave shall specify a reasonable time, which shall not be less than 60 calendar days after notice, within which the defendant must answer. 15a. Section 18. Residence temporarily out of the Philippines. When any action is commenced against a defendant who ordinarily resides within the Philippines, but who is temporarily out of it, service may, by leave of court, be also effected out of the Philippines, as under the preceding section. 16a. Section 19. Leave of court. Any application to the court under this rule for leave to effect service in any manner for which leave of court is necessary shall be made by motion in writing, supported by affidavit of the plaintiff or some person on his or her behalf, setting forth the grounds for the application. 17a. Section 20. Return. Within 30 calendar days from issuance of summons by the clerk of court and receipt thereof, the Sharif F or process server, or person authorized by the court, shall complete its service. Within 5 calendar days from service of summons, the server shall file with the court and serve a copy of the return to the plaintiff's counsel, personally, by registered mail, or by electronic means authorized by the rules. Should substituted service have been effected, the return shall state the following. 1. The impossibility of prompt personal service within a period of 30 calendar days from issue and receipt of summons. 2. The date and time of the 3 attempts on at least 2 different dates to cause personal service and the details of the inquiries made to locate the defendant residing thereat, and 3. The name of the person at least 18 years of age and of sufficient discretion residing thereat, name of competent person in charge of the defendant's office or regular place of business, or name of the officer of the Homeowners Association or Condominium Corporation or its chief security officer in charge of the community or building where the defendant may be found. 4a. Section 21. Proof of service. The proof of service of a summons shall be made in writing by the server and shall set forth the manner, place, and date of service, shall specify any papers which have been served with the process and the name of the person who received the same, and shall be sworn to when made by a person other than a sheriff or his or her deputy. If summons was served by electronic mail, a printout of said email, with a copy of the summons as served, and the affidavit of the person mailing, shall constitute as proof of service. 18a. Section 22. Proof of service by publication. If the service has been made by publication, service may be proved by the affidavit of the publisher, editor, business, or advertising manager, to which affidavit a copy of the publication shall be attached, and by an affidavit showing the deposit of a copy of the summons and order for publication in the post office, postage prepaid, directed to the defendant by registered mail to his or her last known address. 19a. Section 23. Voluntary appearance. The defendant's voluntary appearance in the action shall be equivalent to service of summons. The inclusion in a motion to dismiss of other grounds aside from lack of jurisdiction over the person of the defendant shall be deemed a voluntary appearance. 20a. Rule 15 Motions. Section 1. Motion defined. A motion is an application for relief other than by a pleading. 1. Section 2. Motions must be in writing. All motions shall be in writing except those made in open court or in the course of a hearing or trial. A motion made in open court or in the course of a hearing or trial should immediately be resolved in open court, after the adverse party is given the opportunity to argue his or her opposition thereto. When a motion is based on facts not appearing on record, the court may hear the matter on affidavits or depositions presented by the respective parties, but the court may direct that the matter be heard wholly or partly on oral testimony or depositions. 2a. Section 3. Contents. A motion shall state the relief sought to be obtained and the grounds upon which it is based, and if required by these rules or necessary to prove facts alleged therein, shall be accompanied by supporting affidavits and other papers. 3. Section 4. Hearing of motion. Deleted. Section 4. Non-litigious motions. Motions which the court may act upon without prejudicing the rights of adverse parties are non-litigious motions. These motions include: a. Motion for the issuance of an alias summons. b. Motion for extension to file answer. c. Motion for postponement. d. Motion for the issuance of a writ of execution. e. Motion for the issuance of an alias writ of execution. f. Motion for the issuance of a writ of possession. g. Motion for the issuance of an order directing the Sharif F to execute the final certificate of sale, and h. Other similar motions. These motions shall not be set for hearing and shall be resolved by the court within 5 calendar days from receipt thereof. N. Section 5. Litigious motions. A. Litigious motions include: 1. Motion for bill of particulars. 2. Motion to dismiss. 3. Motion for new trial. 4. Motion for reconsideration. 5. Motion for execution pending appeal. 6. Motion to amend after a responsive pleading has been filed. 7. Motion to cancel statutory lien. 8. Motion for an order to break in or for a writ of demolition. 9. Motion for intervention. 10. Motion for judgment on the pleadings. 11. Motion for summary judgment. 12. Demurrer to evidence. 13. Motion to declare defendant in default, and 14. Other similar motions. B. All motions shall be served by personal service, accredited private courier or registered mail, or electronic means so as to ensure their receipt by the other party. C. The opposing party shall file his or her opposition to a litigious motion within 5 calendar days from receipt thereof. No other submissions shall be considered by the court in the resolution of the motion. The motion shall be resolved by the court within 15 calendar days from its receipt of the opposition thereto, or upon expiration of the period to file such opposition. N. Section 6. Notice of hearing on litigious motions, discretionary. The court may, in the exercise of its discretion, and if deemed necessary for its resolution, call a hearing on the motion. The notice of hearing shall be addressed to all parties concerned, and shall specify the time and date of the hearing. 5a. Section 7. Proof of service necessary. No written motion shall be acted upon by the court without proof of service thereof, pursuant to Section 5b hereof. 6a. Section 8. Motion day. Except for motions requiring immediate action, where the court decides to conduct hearing on a litigious motion, the same shall be set on a Friday. 7a. Section 9. Omnibus motion. Subject to the provisions of Section 1 of Rule 9, a motion attacking a pleading, order, judgment, or proceeding shall include all objections then available, and all objections not so included shall be deemed waived. 8a. Section 10. Motion for a leave. A motion for leave to file a pleading or motion shall be accompanied by the pleading or motion sought to be admitted. 9. Section 11. Form. The rules applicable to pleadings shall apply to written motions so far as concerns caption, designation, signature, and other matters of form. 10. Section 12. Prohibited motions. The following motions shall not be allowed. A. Motion to dismiss except on the following grounds. 1. That the court has no jurisdiction over the subject matter of the claim. 2. That there is another action pending between the same parties for the same cause, and 3. That the cause of action is barred by a prior judgment or by the statute of limitations. B. Motion to hear affirmative defenses. C. Motion for reconsideration of the court's action on the affirmative defenses. D. Motion to suspend proceedings without a temporary restraining order or injunction issued by a higher court. E. Motion for extension of time to file pleadings, affidavits or any other papers, except a motion for extension to file an answer as provided by Section 11, Rule 11, and F. Motion for postponement intended for delay, except if it is based on acts of God, force majeure or physical inability of the witness to appear and testify. If the motion is granted based on such exceptions, the moving party shall be warned that the presentation of its evidence must still be terminated on the dates previously agreed upon. A motion for postponement, whether written or oral, shall, at all times, be accompanied by the original official receipt from the office of the clerk of court evidencing payment of the postponement fee under Section 21, b. Rule 141, to be submitted either at the time of the filing of said motion or not later than the next hearing date. The clerk of court shall not accept the motion unless accompanied by the original receipt. N. Section 13. Dismissal with prejudice. Subject to the right of appeal, an order granting a motion to dismiss or an affirmative defense that the cause of action is barred by a prior judgment or by the statute of limitations, that the claim or demand set forth in the plaintiff's pleading has been paid, waived, abandoned, or otherwise extinguished, or that the claim on which the action is founded is unenforceable under the provisions of the statute of frauds, shall bar the refiling of the same action or claim. 5. R. 16.